26, with a hole in my writing hand and no shoes to walk my poems in. I thought I was Jesus. I slept in a dry creek bed and spoke to the trees. I found a pine plantation where they stood in perfect rows, and I walked between them, speaking like a general to his soldiers, telling those pine trees to stand up straight, keep breathing, drop the needles. Back then, I stitched patches under the sky to stop it from falling. I sat among the cedars, and she asked me if I'd kiss my favorite poet Khalil Gibran before her. I said yes, but promised her I'd get a tattoo of her on my ribcage in case I ever felt this caged in again. I never did it, and you can't tell, but even when I'm rolling in the dirt, there's still a patch of clean skin on my body for everything I've ever been through. I stitch myself back onto myself when things fall apart. At 27, I realized that dirt is the least dirty substance on earth. I learned this while I was trying to dig myself out of a hole and bury the old me at the same time. I guess it's lucky I'm exactly 6 foot, so when I stand in a grave, I'm always halfway in and halfway out. All I need to do is tell the grave digger to go fuck himself, pull him in by the shovel, sprinkle some dirt, say a prayer. It was him or me. He was the old me. At 28, I walked into the abyss of depression with an owl of wisdom perched on my shoulder. And as I did, that owl would sometimes appear like a wolf, howling at me in the mirror, or a fig tree bearing fruit just once a season, or a river twisting around me, trying to drown me. Eventually though, that owl became a monument, bronzed and in the center of my city, with all of life's architecture growing block by block from her acropolis. Now I pray at her altar and climb onto her shoulder, and sometimes I whisper metaphors into her ear, and if I'm lucky, she tells me she likes them. At 29, I realized that money is not the root of all evil. We are the square root of our own equations. We calculate life by trying to add blame, take offense, and multiply it by never wanting to talk about it ever again. We're all so divided we forget to carry the one. And I realized that Albert Einstein once said, if you can't explain something simply, you don't know it well enough. I guess E equals MC squared is the evidence. I sold everything and became a reductionist. With the money, I paid off the ferryman. He tipped his hat and let me pass. And I like to tell people how I never look back. But of course I have. We always do. The next year, I was so scared of turning 30 that I pretended I was still 29 for the first half, or already 31 for the second. It was my leap year. I loved a woman but told her it wasn't enough. I beat myself up longer than she did until I realized that there are many languages in the world that don't have a word for guilt. And while most people say I think and point to their heads, I say I think and point to my heart. I went with my heart, and for that, there is no apology. But I realized why they say our heart's the size of our fists. I used mine in self-defense. Every time we made a connection, it felt like something connected. Karate for Kama Sutra. Now I use my fist for clutching more pens and drawing much better conclusions. At 31, I quit everything and saw my insides under a microscope. I realized the answer to most of my cravings is a deeper breath, a glass of water, or a moment alone. I moved to the ocean and spent hours with the planets. I did what poets talk about. I became more simple, a king in jeans, a kid who just really likes words, nothing more, nothing less. Eventually, I threw a grandfather clock off a cliff just to see time fly. 'Cause I realized it would anyway. And I realized that our words don't need to be heavy to hold weight. It depends more on how you make them fall. And I've realized that I'm no longer writing poetry. I'm setting up good silences. I'm leaving space for you to fill in the gaps. Every time I step on stage, I spend less time speaking and more time listening to you listen to me. In between my words, there is a poem that you were writing when I wrote this. just by living your lives like we all do, from moment to this moment.